Today is a great, wonderful, amazing, incredible day because it's a Sweden day. 5 things that shocked me about moving to Sweden 6 years later. Without further ado, let's get into this reaction. Let's go.
It's now been over 6 years since I first moved to Sweden and started this YouTube channel. Actually, back in January of 2018, I gave my initial reactions to moving in Sweden in the video 5 things that shocked me about moving to Sweden. Now, having spent all this time here, having become a Swedish citizen, speaking the Swedish.
Why am I a little bit jealous that he's become a Swedish citizen? It's well deserved. He's been there for 6 years. I'm like, part of me is like, I want a Swedish passport. You never know, guys. Honestly, I'm a very random person. It could happen, like just randomly. Like you'd be like, wait a minute, you're living in Sweden now. I say, yeah, I'm living in Sweden. I mean, I live in Thailand. I live in Thailand, guys, and I'm learning about Sweden. I'm a very random person. So you never know. I could end up living in Stockholm or Gothenburg, or who knows? Maybe in the far north of Sweden. It could happen.
Swedish language fluently and really being able to call Sweden my home. I want to reflect back and think about the experience as a whole. What are 5 things that I find shocking about this country? There's going to be some similarities to that first video I did all those years ago, but there's going to be some unique hot takes in this video that I hope you guys find interesting. One of the first things that shocked me when I moved to Sweden was the climate and especially the length of the days and how you have extreme differences between the long summer nights where the sun seems to never go down and the winter where the sun goes down extremely early, and there's so much variation.
Whoa! Does it really get that cold? Mate, his eyebrows frozen. His hair is I'm pretty sure his hair's not grey. His hair's frozen? Or is it frozen or is that just snow? I don't know. One of the two, if not both. Wild. In terms of like the days, the long days, the short days and the long days in the summer, the short days in the winter. Like I said, it would be, if I moved to Sweden, would be a culture shock now because I live in Thailand. But I'm from England and I've only lived here for 2 years. The majority of my life, in the winter months, you do get shorter days. The sun sets in England at like 4 o'clock. At the height of winter, about 4 o'clock, sometimes 2:30 in the afternoon. In the summer, the sun can be up until like 11 o'clock. Like at the height of summer, you can still see a sunset at like 11. No, okay, 10:30. I'm being maybe a bit crazy. About 10:30, 10 o'clock, 10:30. You can still see a sunset. So going to Sweden, although it'll be shocking, it won't be like, oh, I've never seen anything like this in my life. This day is so long. It won't be that bad for me. But I think it'll be if I was in the far north of Sweden and the sun's never setting, that would be crazy.
Throughout the days here in Sweden that it still surprises me year after year that I live here.
Så vad tycker du om det här vädret I Sverige?
Ja, det är bra.
Ja, det är bra.
Mycket bra vädret.
The longest day of the year, June 21st in Stockholm.
Sorry, I know I reacted to that so late. But the scarf, the way it was wrapped around his head. Oh dear.
The sun might set around 11 o'clock at night, and then you'll even have some residual light until the sun might come up at 2:30 or 3 in the morning. So it's truly unlike anything else if you have not been this far north on the globe. In the winter, it is the exact opposite. Here at the shortest time of the year, so for example, December 21st, which is the shortest day, the sun might come up around 9:30, and then it will set around maybe 2:30. So you go from on the long end having a day that's like 20 hours long in the summer to maybe just 5 hours in the wintertime. And the days around the longest and shortest days of the year, you don't see so much change from day to day, But when you're in the middle points, so say September or March, you start to see big changes from day to day, where each day becomes maybe 10 minutes longer. So you notice the changes a lot more quickly in Sweden compared to where I'm from in Portland, Oregon, which is quite far north compared to the US. But if you compare just how far north Sweden is, it's at a whole nother level.
And where I'm from here, like literally where my cursor is, that's where I'm from, the north of England, just below Scotland. I'm from about here, so if you look, not far off Stockholm, Sweden. So some of the effects of the, what do you call it? What do you call it? We call it daylight savings in England. That's what we call when you move your clocks forward and you move your clocks backwards. So some of the effects of that is quite similar to you guys in Stockholm, especially you guys in Stockholm, because you're actually quite south-ish in Sweden. So you're actually quite close to where I'm from in terms of time.
I've also now been to the north of Sweden several times, and once you get past the Arctic Circle, you truly get to a point where on the longest day of the year, the sun never sets. The second thing that shocked me about moving to Sweden is something that I'm going to call the lagom lifestyle. Now, for those of you not super familiar with Swedish culture, there's a word in Swedish called lagom, which basically translates to not too much, not too little, just right. But to me, this is more than just a word. It's almost a way of life, because in Sweden, people don't like to necessarily stand out. And in general, I think people live a very moderate lifestyle. People are more happy with what they have. Whereas growing up in America, I felt like people were always pushing for more. It's a very competitive society. It just seems like people here have more of a sense of inner peace, and there's less of this hustle culture that you'd be sure to experience if you spent any real time in the US.
That's interesting. I mean, I've spoken about lagom quite a lot. It's come up in quite a lot of my videos in the past. And I always draw a parallel to where I'm living currently, because I live in Thailand. And Thailand have their own word, which is also, it's a word, but also is a cultural thing, which is like sabai sabai, or my pen rai. My pen rai is like no worries. Sabai sabai, like, it's just kind of like, it's fine, like things like it's like it's a modest way of living, like not being envious of other people, envious of other things, just kind of living your life peacefully. It's a similar kind of thing to lagom. I feel like there's some parallels. There's some parallels to the way that you guys live life. I think it's a good thing. I think in Britain, I've said this before, we are in between Swedish way of being lagom and the American way of being super driven and the American dream and striving for what you want. We're like in between that. We're not one or the other. I think we are very, very modest in a lot of ways as Brits. Some would say maybe a bit prude. Some would say maybe a little bit indecisive. Like, we don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. A bit too polite. But we also have that kind of American dream kind of thing where we do want to succeed and do want to seem to be doing well in our lives as well. So we're kind of a mixture of the two, kind of weird. And the more more southern you are, the more you're like an American. Like, Londoners are the most like Americans. Northerners are the most like Swedes. I'm a northerner. I'm from the north of England, so we're not as flashy as Londoners. Londoners are very like London's quite close to New York. So like I said, I'm waffling on, but like I understand what he's saying from both points of views, because I feel like I'm slap bang in the middle.
The only way that Swedish people are not lagom, I would say, is the amount of coffee that they drink, because I've never met other people anywhere in the world that drinks more coffee than the Swedish people do. The third thing that shocked me about moving to Sweden and now having lived here for so long is the sense of collectivism that Swedish people have. I oftentimes feel like the US can be a very individualistic society. I mean, if you were to walk around my high school where I attended in the US, you'd see tons of individual accolades hung up all around the school, in the gymnasium, in the hallways. Think about like science student of the month, math student of the month, all-state soccer player, all-state American football player. Americans have a truly competitive culture, and a culture that places a high sense of significance on people standing out and praising individual accolades. At times it can almost...
Yeah, very, isn't it? Oh, does that make you a bit sick? Him just posing with his trophy and his whatever, that made me feel a bit sick in my mouth. But anyways, what I was going to say was, it's interesting he said Sweden, that you guys have a collective nature. Because I was thinking in my head, Finns in Finland are quite individualistic, no? They like to keep themselves to themselves. Are you guys different in that sense? Like, you have a collective... I don't know. I thought Nordic people were very, like, individual, like, very independent. I would say Swedes are also independent as well. Like, you don't tend to need, like, other people. You're, like, able to do things on your own. But he's saying you're very collective. Maybe collective in your ethos, in the way of living, you all do the same thing. I don't know. It's weird because I know what he's saying. He's saying that you're not like Americans in the fact that you're not individualistic and you're not very like, oh, look at me and look at my individual achievements. But then I'd also say that, and you're collective in that sense, but I'd also say that you're not collective as a people. You do things individualistic and you're very like independent as people. Does that make sense? Am I making sense? I think I'm just... Let me know in the comment section. I think you're both individualistic and collective as a people. That's what I'm trying to say, basically. Let me know if I'm somewhat correct in the comment section.
Almost feel like there's this every man for themselves mentality in the US when you think about gun owners owning guns to protect their property from other people, or just millions of Americans not having access to publicly funded healthcare, or the fact that college costs so much money that it affords some people the opportunity to pay for college and get a higher education where it can be much more difficult for others. A lot of those things just don't exist in Sweden, and I think it runs to a much deeper level culturally, because Swedish people have this sense of collectivism. One of the first things that shocked me when I moved to Sweden...
Okay, this is why my opinion and his opinion differs. He's looking at it from the point of view of an American, and he calls what you guys are doing as I can't even say it. Collectivism. I can't even say it. I wouldn't call it that because I'm a Brit. So things that I'm like, yeah, why wouldn't you do that? Of course you'd do that. Of course you'd look out for your people. Of course you'd have national health service and like provide free healthcare. Of course, of course you would help your fellow man, and of course but that's because I'm European and we have a lot of similarities. So I wouldn't call a lot of what he calls collectivism. Can't say the word. What he's calling that, I wouldn't call that. So I get it, because he's looking at it from an American point of view. Cool.
Sweden was just how high the taxes were. And as someone that's grown up in America, I've never been a huge fan of paying high taxes. But I've heard many of my Swedish friends, colleagues, and people that I've gotten to know in this country say that they're happy to pay the high taxes. And this is very interesting, because this is something that I've never heard an American say, that they're happy to pay high taxes. The thing is that Swedish people really like to contribute to the common good. So we see this from paying taxes, but also in the way that they care about the environment, that they recycle. There's also a very high sense of trust in society, almost to the point where it can seem a little bit naive that people trust each other so much here. As an outsider, it is...
Is that true? Do you guys often leave your laptops and your phones unattended? That's so good. That's so good. I'm going to like Sweden. Because it's like that here in Thailand. They also do the same in Thailand. I've seen people leave their laptop just kind of unattended in a coffee shop, and they'll go to the toilet and they'll come back and it's fine. And I've been like, oh my God, why would you leave your stuff there? And it makes me anxious. And I'm like, oh, I'm in Thailand. It's fine. So if you guys do that without thinking as well, that shows that you have an element of trust. Maybe not in Stockholm. Let me know in the comment section, but maybe other parts of Sweden. But yeah, let me know.
Has come and seen it with different eyes. But to be honest, this sense of social trust and cohesion is one of my favorite things about this country, and one of the reasons why I've always felt so comfortable here. People just aren't trying to one-up each other or take advantage of each other. They're always very thoughtful about the common good. Another benefit of this is through the work culture, and I see oftentimes in important decision-making processes and things that work in a Swedish company, everyone gets to weigh in, everyone gets to have a say, whether it's your first day in the job or you're the founder and CEO of the company that's been working on the project for over 10 years. Everyone's opinion is valued, and there's much less of a hierarchical structure, which is pretty common in the vast majority of other countries. In contrast to the sense of collectivism in Sweden, the fourth thing that really shocked me about having lived here for so long is the sense of individualism in Swedish society.
There we go. I thought I was talking absolute crap, but he's actually now mentioning that you have a sense of individualism as well as a collectivism. Okay. For a minute I thought, oh my god, I'm talking absolute crap. Cool. Yeah.
One statistic that really makes this stand out for me is that Swedish people move out of their parents' homes on average at 17.8 years of age, which is one of the lowest ages in the world for citizens globally to move out of their childhood home. Contrast that with many cultures in Southern Europe where people will not move out of their parents' home until their late 20s. This sense of individualism.
In Britain, it's kind of similar ways. Well, I mean, I guess because nowadays it's got, like, in terms of the economy, you know, kids are living at home a lot longer. Like, my brother didn't move out of the house until he was, oh my God, I think he was 28. 28. I think he was 28 when he left home. Whereas I left home at 18 or 19. 18. So, yeah. No, 19. I just turned 19 and I left home. So I was a lot different from my younger brother, even though he's younger than me and he was growing up. Well, maybe because the economy was really, really bad. I think I moved out just as we hit a recession. Great. It was the year we hit a recession. I think it was 2008 and I moved out of home. Or 2008 and I moved out of home. Great. Recession hit. But yeah, I guess I've always been quite an independent person. So I've got that a lot of that in common with Swedes as well.
Individualism in Sweden basically means that people want to be independent. They don't want to be a burden on anyone else. And I would say that people in this country are very self-sufficient. They're well educated, really great independent thinkers. And so you see this interesting contrast of people wanting the good of the collective, but being very self-sufficient. And this sense of independence can manifest itself in all kinds of ways throughout Swedish society. Notably, if you're out dating or if you are going out with friends, that everyone wants to pay an equal amount so that it doesn't feel like one person is being a burden in the group. Everyone wants this sense of collectivism and that they're pitching in. And we also see these themes throughout all aspects of Swedish society when it comes to things like equality, feminism, income levels for different jobs, and people's overall approach to life.
So the Nordics have relatively low income inequality. Okay, world map of income inequality based on World Bank data ranging from 1992 to 2020. Above 50%, clearly on that, like a lot of African nations and Southern America and even some Middle East. Between 35 and 45%. Whoa, America, look at how dark red that is. Ooh. And then look at the Nordic countries. You guys are like below 30%. We're between 35 and 40%. Wow.
Life. And the fifth and final thing that shocked me about moving to Sweden was just how amazingly well Swedish people speak English. And this came as a greater shock to me than maybe to others because
that was very quick.
And this came as a greater shock to me.
So the world's best non-native English-speaking countries. Date of 2019, and look at you, Sweden, just underneath the Netherlands. Pretty sick. Pretty sick. Pretty cool. Norway's just behind you. Denmark clearly there. Singapore. Singapore? I've never been to Singapore, but I live really close to Singapore. I need to go to Singapore. I speak such good English. South Africa, Finland, Austria. Wow.
Me than maybe to others, because when I was a kid, a young boy at 5 years old, my entire family lived in Berlin, and actually in East Berlin. Granted, this was after the Berlin Wall fell, of course, but all of my teachers and stuff at the kindergarten that I was going to did not speak any English, because everyone in East Berlin, they learned Russian in school when they were kids. So before I started moving to Sweden, I started studying the Swedish language extensively. I remember sitting hours in front of Duolingo every single day to start to build up my basic vocabulary. But
that's what I've been doing, guys. I've been doing Duolingo as well. Granted, I've fallen off it. I haven't done it in the past week, but I was doing it back to back, and I was like in a streak. And it's just like, it's hard to retain the information when you're not actually there and you're not actually interacting with Swedish people. And even though I watch and listen to the Swedish, I hear the Swedish language every single day because of my YouTube channel and because of my Patreon, and the sound of the Swedish language is very normal. I think that might be the first stage of learning a language, is like being comfortable with listening and hearing the sounds and the tones and the way the language is spoken. And I think that's ingrained in me now, but I still don't understand a lot of the language. So it's like, I need to get lessons. I need to get lessons, guys. I need to have lessons on it. I need to just go to Sweden and live and learn.
But then when I finally got to Sweden, I was absolutely shocked how well Swedish people speak English. I might even go as far as to say that even if you're living in Sweden as a foreigner, it's not necessary to speak Swedish. But with that being said, if you do learn to speak Swedish, it opens up an entire new realm of Swedish culture and being fully integrated in Swedish society. And it's something that I'm very glad that I've done personally. The problem is, because Swedish people are so good at speaking English, a lot of times for the people that are trying to learn Swedish, want to try to practice speaking Swedish with actual Swedish people, they'll quickly switch to English, because people have this tendency to communicate in the language that is easiest for both parties. To try to solve this problem, a few friends and I have created a new way to learn Swedish, and it's called the Language Gym. What the Language Gym is basically it's a dedicated space.
He's selling right now. I know about this. It's really good what he's done, actually. It's isn't it like a retreat? I think they go away and they like stay together in a house or something, and then they like force each other to speak in Swedish.
For anyone that's trying to learn the language to constantly practice and push their language skills to the next level with a community of language learners just like them. And superstar teachers like Katrine from Slow Swedish and Fredrik from the Simple Swedish podcast. I'm actually hosting a few classes myself as well if you'd like to practice speaking Swedish with me in there. With one monthly membership, you get access to multiple group live Swedish classes every single day that you can sign in and attend directly from your smartphone. That's over.
Well done, Stefan. Well done. Well done. No, because this makes sense. Like, he's actually done the work. He's gone to Sweden. He's lived there for 6 years. He's learned how to speak Swedish. And this is a really good course. Very happy for him. Very, very happy for him. This is a really good thing. And it's really helpful for anyone that wants to speak Swedish. Like I was just saying, I would like to learn Swedish. Should I put my money where my mouth is? Should I learn Swedish, guys?
It's over 60 hours of Swedish group conversation practice classes every single month that can help you level up your Swedish in no time. And if you want to try it out, I'm going to leave a link down below in the description that you can get 50% off your first month. The goal of this program is that basically any day of the week, you can just sign up for a class and start practicing your Swedish with real people basically whenever you want. So with that, guys, thanks for watching this video.
He might have sold that to me, actually. I'm going to look into it anyways. And if any of you guys, well, you're all Swedish, so you're not going to want to learn Swedish. But yeah, if you are trying to learn Swedish, support Stefan. And the language gym sounds like a really, really good thing. I want to learn Swedish. Yeah. Guys, thank you very much for watching. Until the next one, I will see you very soon.